My name's Becky Orphan. I'm an artist. What inspires my work is nature within an urban environment. We're in Brunswick in the inner north of Melbourne. I live and work here. It's kind of grit and it's sort of light industrial. It also has a really great art community, lots of galleries, lots of artist studios, lots of like-minded people in the area. I've always been a city girl and I love living in the city, but I also love nature in the city. So one of the things I do love about Brunswick is there's quite a lot of parks and you can still seek out those bits of sort of nature like possums. There's some tawny frogmouths in the park near my house. Things like that really inspire me. I guess it's that element of things being able to survive in the city and adapt instead of being driven out. This is my studio garden, also known as the secret garden, and I love that it's right outside of where I work. Having the garden definitely helps the art. Even if I'm not working on something that's specifically plant or nature-based, it still can provide a really good mental break if you're stuck or if you just need to sort of change your environment up a little bit. Sometimes my work is quite abstract, so it is just literally looking at shapes. So being able to go out to the garden and get sort of shape inspiration is really good too. I was lucky enough to be surrounded by lots of gardens as a child and definitely used to visit the Melbourne Botanic Gardens and the Fitzroy Gardens quite a lot. When I first moved here, the graffiti was already on the walls and lots of people asked me if I was going to paint a mural because that's part of my work, and I said absolutely not. I love the graffiti. I love that it was already here. It makes it feel like almost like a ruin, I guess. And the graffiti is such a nice contrast, all the plants and the colours, and they actually work so beautifully together. Colour is a really big part of my work, so flowers and the varying degrees of green within nature, the textures, the shapes, forms in nature, always really, really inspiring. And often I look out to the garden or to flowers to look for new sort of shapes and forms. This garden is around 12 metres by 12 metres. I rented this space around 2 years ago. It was just all weeds. I knew what kind of gardens I liked, which was sort of that wild style, prairie, meadow-esque type garden. One of the people I discovered when I was looking at gardens was Piet Oudorff, who's a Dutch gardener. He designed the Highline Garden in New York. The Highline is a garden which has been created on an old train line that's become public space. So that idea of a wild garden against a sort of urban backdrop was really inspiring to me. A friend said to me, oh, you should speak to my partner, Jimmy, who loves these style of gardens and is a gardener. And then once I met Jimmy, we worked together and he just created this absolute dream out here.
I'm Jimmy Singh. I was a DJ, used to run nightclubs, now I design gardens. Meeting Becky and talking to her about what she would like to see in a studio garden was so exciting because you can see in her work she loves flowers, loves colour, and we talked about how to do this in a really exaggerated way. The planting is an unreal version of a meadow, a grassland, a prairie type of setting. This means that we have pops of colour and different foliage forms popping up through the grasses at all stages of the year. This is one of the indigenous grasses that's planted, Dichelachne crinita. It's native to our local grasslands here. Love these plumes.
Yeah, these are my favourite bits. They look like antennae or little tails.
For Becky, I had a real look out for plants that are like characters themselves. You know, this idea that if you put two googly eyes on it, what would they express? And for that, I'd like to think of giving Becky all these characters to keep her company at her studio.
This is a really great surprise that's just popped up over the last week. I've never seen it flower before.
Yeah, this one's Angelica gigas. It's a biennial, so it only flowers every 2 years. It comes out of these big muscular type of strange pods and opens up into this globe form.
I like this bit because it looks like a fairy swimming pool. Definitely imagine some fairies having a good time in there.
Yeah, who's in there? I've planted very densely. In 100 square metres, we have 700 plants put in here.
I really love these ones. Obviously, I love the yellow petals, but when they fall off, I love the height of this centre bit and the texture. And they stay for quite a long time, and it looks really beautiful the way they move in the wind.
Yeah, they'll be our main vertical all through winter. They'll be standing. They're a prairie plant. They're your namesake.
Yes.
Rudbeckia maxima. Beautiful big foliage down the bottom. It's pretty rare for a grassland plant to have such big leaves. This is the blue devil, one of my favourites. It's another grassland species from around our area, but I love it when it's given some space out, just ranges out, finds its way across other plants. Makes like a constellation almost of stars.
I'm really taken by the colour, this sort of blue colour. It looks otherworldly. Like, I can't believe it exists. It looks like it's out of a Pantone book. I think when you think of Indigenous plants, you don't think of them being bright blue.
True.
I feel like working with Jimmy was a dream. He was so great at taking my very rough idea and turning it into this incredible garden that we have here. I think we worked really well together, just personality-wise. We became friends in the process, which was really great.
We shared a love for similar aesthetics and plants, which made us smile. It's been beautiful just continuing to discover them with Becky as they come up in the garden.
The garden makes me feel completely joyous. I literally pinch myself every day that I get to look out at this incredible space that we created together. It's a really beautiful space. It's really calming. I also wanted it to be a space where my friends and creative community could benefit from and gather, and it's definitely become that as well.
Cheers. Cheers.